Hi friends, Terrence here. I'm really happy to announce that I'm holding my first live retreat since 2021 right here in Brussels on Saturday the 6th and Sunday the 7th of December. It's going to be a small, intimate, intensive, limited to just a handful of people for those who feel drawn to explore this teaching deeply and directly. We'll have 3 two-hour sessions each day with lunch provided in a relaxed and personal setting. All the details, including times, location, how to register, are on my website, www.terrencestevens.com. If you feel called to join, I'd love to sit with you in presence, inquiry, and truth. Look forward to seeing you in Brussels. There is an identification that happens, yeah. And it happens with mind. It happens with content of mind. Right. Now, it's not the personal self that's identifying with mind. So it's not the personal self that's identifying with mind. It'd have to be something else, wouldn't it? Yeah. Okay. And that's been going on our whole life. Yeah. I sometimes refer to that as being conscious of. Conscious of mind, conscious of the content of mind, conscious of the speech that's coming out of my mouth now, conscious of the speech that comes out of my mouth when I'm engaged with other people and so on. Yeah. And it feels personal. It does. It absolutely does. It feels personal. And the reason that it feels personal is because, in a way, it actually is. But what we fail to see is that this that is identifying with mind is not Shiva or me or Kimberly or Melody or Jim or whoever is here in this meeting. It's consciousness itself. Okay. Then we get on this path and we're hoping that personal me is going to awaken from this dream and have some kind of experience. That's why we're doing it. We want something out of this. We're hoping to experience something. You know? Now, so the personal me, the idea of a personal self, gets produced by mind. Thoughts. Yeah. So we've got consciousness, which is conscious of the thoughts that are simply arising. And when you have those two things, consciousness and the thoughts that are simply arising, from that gets created an idea, just an idea of a personal self and an idea of a world out there. Just an idea. Yeah. Because if the mind just completely collapsed, yeah, zero dialogue going on inside, number one, personal self stops, and number two, the idea of a world out there also stops. Like the idea of it. Yeah? I'm not saying there's nothing out there, but what I am saying is, yeah, the idea of what mind is saying is out there is just as false as the mind saying that there's a personal self here. Just mind. They're just thoughts. And it's been going on, our whole life. It starts around the age of 2 when we start to learn language. Symbolic language, words. The vocab gets bigger, and as the vocab gets bigger, the thoughts become more complex. Yeah? At some point, when you're about 2 or 3 years of age, your parents would have been pointing at you some way, shape or form, saying, Shiva, Shiva. Do you know what I mean? And then mind takes that on. Oh, I am this. Yeah. Then the identification of the body starts happening again. Starts happening, not again, but starts happening. And then whilst that is continuing to happen, this identification with this body, the vocabulary of the mind is building and building and building and building, and the story becomes more and more and more complex, bigger. Yeah. So this idea of a personal me, when you really track it back and look at it, it was put there. If you had been born in China, yeah, your little personal me would have had, it would have come from a Chinese culture. All the internal dialogue and the thinking would be in Chinese. Yeah, we don't choose our name, we don't choose anything. It just gets put there. Yeah. So a moment ago I said, it kind of is personal, yeah, but not the Shiva personal, the consciousness personal. Yeah, is your experience of your experience. Yeah, and even putting it this way is incorrect. So give me a little bit of latitude. Yeah, but your experience of your consciousness experience of the mind that you have been aware of your whole life. You're not aware of the thoughts that have been going on here my whole life, or anybody else that's sitting in here. You're not aware of everybody else's thoughts and everybody else's story. Yeah? So what happens, and again, it starts at a very, very young age. This consciousness, this beingness, this awareness, whatever label, symbolic label we want to put on it, yeah. Mind hijacks this presence, this consciousness, and this awareness, and starts calling the presence, consciousness, and awareness Shiva. Yeah. So then we go, okay, well, like I also said, we get onto this path and we're hoping that personal self is going to wake up. Personal self is going to have an experience. But it's not personal self that awakens. It's the consciousness. It's the consciousness which is doing all the identification with the content of mind and the body. Yeah. So we've always lived in a state of being conscious of, always. And the assumption has been, until we investigate, that this that is conscious of is Shiva. And it's not. Is there conscious of? 100% yes. Is there consciousness here? 100% yes. Yes. But it's not Shiva that's conscious of, and it's not Shiva that's consciousness. Shiva is a product of mind only. Mind only. And then the mind becomes the seeker. Yeah. Sounds like a good idea, says mind, right? This sounds good. And I might get something wonderful out of it if I pursue this. Mind. So this whole path is about, at least initially, coming to disidentify with the mind. Now, people can get confused with that, because I can say that and it might be interpreted as, oh, it's Shiva that needs to start to disidentify with the mind. You see, Shiva can't actually hear me because Shiva's not conscious. Shiva's not consciousness. Shiva is simply a pattern of thoughts, which constantly changes and moves, and yeah. So whilst we're sitting here, I'm not speaking to Shiva. I'd have to be speaking to that consciousness. Or, as my teacher would have said, I'm speaking to that I am, that I am. Because there is consciousness here.
Mm. Mm.
Do you understand?
Mm.
There is
Mm-hmm.
consciousness here. Yeah? And when you said earlier, okay, when you're sitting quietly, you can kind of, things quieten down and it's sort of okay. I'm paraphrasing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when I start to engage with my friends, it's like, oh, personal self is back again. And all that is back is the habitual pattern of thoughts, the habitual pattern of mind that engages with your friends or work colleagues.
Mm.
That's all.
Mm.
And you're actually aware of that. But built into the mind is saying, I'm missing something here. This shouldn't be happening because this now feels
Mm.
personal.
Mm.
And it's only mind that says that.
Mm.
Or a pattern of thoughts that arises and says, or a thought that arises and says that. Yeah. And then it might get
Mm.
backed up by another thought, and it'll get backed up by another thought, and it'll get backed up
Mm.
by another thought. And all of those thoughts are just happening.
Mm.
No Shiva there that's the thinker. Thoughts, mind is just happening.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it.
Recently, as I was in inquiry was happening, there was an intensity and a thought that was third party that said, these aren't Shiva's thoughts.
Yeah.
And that was an something new that I hadn't experienced. Excuse me. And the intensity of the whole dialogue just went from a 10 down to a 2.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And I was aware at some point later that thought came in and tried to claim it. Like, this happened to Shiva is really
Yeah.
what the thought was.
Yeah. You know, sometimes what you just described is sometimes called the inner guru.
Mm.
Yeah. Not all
Mm.
thoughts are a waste of time.
Mm.
I would say about 98% of them are. Seriously. Yeah. But sometimes there's a thought that will arise that seems to guide us or
Mm.
seems to point us in the right direction. Yeah. Or, you know, a thought might arise, like you just said, a thought might arise and go, oh, those thoughts just happened.
Mm.
Yeah. That's a useful thought because, yeah, those thoughts did just happen.
Mm.
Yeah. So also you have to understand, yeah, that all these thoughts that are just happening, there is a source to that, to all those thoughts.
Mm.
Yeah. And, you know, a moment ago, I was referring to consciousness. Yeah. That source, we could call it awareness, gets given all sorts of names. Yeah. But that source, if that source is only one, then it's responsible for all.
Mm. Mm.
It cannot be any other way. Because it begs the question, doesn't it? Like when we sit here, okay, thoughts are going off and there's a realization, okay, thoughts are just happening. Yeah. And we go, but I thought I was the thinker. Now, if I am the thinker, I should be able to stop these thoughts. And then we attempt to do that, and there's another realization, holy shit, I can't stop thoughts. Well, that eliminates me being the thinker straight away. Thoughts are just happening. Yeah. But it begs the question, who or what the hell is doing the thinking?
Mm. Mm.
Then, you know, you can go deeper than that. It could be why? Why are these thoughts just happening? Where are they coming from? What's the reason? go a bit deeper and you can start to
mm,
kind of dive into that, But the trick from what you initially described, Shiva, is stay with the witnessing of everything that's happening, including this idea that arises that when I'm with my friends, it all seems personal again.
mm,
Now, you have to understand, that what says that is the mind.
mhm, mm, mm.
It's just another
Yeah.
thought arising, but no different from any other thought that arises. No different. I've often said, it's not some thoughts, it's all thoughts. Every single solitary one of them, including like you might be sitting here now, right, when we're engaging, and a thought arises. And that one will be taken personally. Why?
Mm,
Because, well, I'm sitting here with Terrence and we're having this conversation and I need to engage and, there's this
mm,
thought, oh, I'll ask that question. It's
mm,
all of those thoughts, all of it. So at some point, there needs to be the capacity to sit there and observe that for yourself. See that that is what's happening. It's, you know, often we can go, oh, yeah, I'm aware that thoughts just happen. Yeah? But so there's the thoughts that are just happening. Then there'll still be a personal me here, now
mm,
believing that it's having personal thoughts about the thoughts that are just happening. And
mm,
these two here, the personal me and the apparent personal thoughts about the thoughts that are just happening, these two here
mm,
are all happening in this.
mm.
There is only
Yeah.
that. And it's coming to see that for yourself. It's really not difficult. It's really not.
Mm,
Even the speech that comes out of our mouth, the speech, that comes out of our mouth, that's
mm,
also thoughts.
mm,
My teacher would say, verbalized thoughts.
mm.
Because if you could imagine, Shiva, if there was zero thoughts, and I mean zero thoughts, what would you say about
Nothing.
anything for that matter? If there was zero thoughts,
Mm,
what happens to things? What happens to me? What happens to them? What happens to this? What happens to there? What happens to love, hate? Polaric opposites, right? What happens
mm.
to all of that if the mind just collapsed?
No
There's something
experience.
left. There's something left, Shiva. Even if the mind completely collapsed, there's something left.
Mm,
That I'm referring to as consciousness.
yeah.
Yeah. And the consciousness, as I think you understand, is not dependent on the thoughts. It's only dependent on the thoughts, the consciousness, to create the idea of a personal self.
Mm,
Then
mm,
Source gets to have an experience of an apparent Shiva.
mm, mm,
So it's Source having the experience of a Shiva, not Shiva.
mm, mm.
You know this. I know you know this, yeah? Yeah. Sometimes we just need a little tap on the shoulder and a little reminder of what's actually happening, yeah? And then we kind of go, oh shit, yeah, okay.
Mm,
And then we land again. Yeah.
mm,
And then the inquiry, you know, this, I wouldn't even call it seeking, but the inquiry then just goes into the consciousness.
mm.
from direct experience, not with mind. Mind is the block. Mind is the duality. It's only mind, and I mean that, only mind that operates dualistically. And we're trying to use the dualistic mind to discover non-dual. Doesn't work. Yeah. But we can use the dualistic mind to work out what the hell duality is. And what's duality? Thoughts. Just thoughts. Because if it completely collapsed, what happens to the dual? Now there's no idea of here, there, this, that, up, down, hot, cold, love, hate, blah, blah. Yeah? There's only this that creates the idea of that. So, you know, effectively, what I'm trying to get you to see here is you are not this. Mind I'm talking about. Mind. You are not that. You're damn well conscious of that. So you can't be that you are conscious of. Can't be that. Yeah. And then really, it's just a matter of sitting here and seeing that for yourself. You're in the best seat. You're in the best seat. Yeah. To see it for yourself. Thoughts are just happening. They're just arising. Yeah. The heart is just beating. The lungs are just breathing. The hair is just growing. Fingernails are just growing. All the trillions of cells in the body all running around doing their thing. And we go, yeah, but I'm the thinker and I'm the body. My teacher used to say, if you were the body, your next primary concern would be that you took your next breath. If you were that body, that would be your next primary concern. We don't think about it, it just happens. Thoughts just happen. The body just happens. It even heals itself, for God's sake. You're conscious right now, Shiva. And this direct experience of being conscious right now, mind has been calling that Shiva. And that is false. The funny thing is, yeah, this consciousness, that's what the Shiva character is looking for. It's already there. It's already there. But we go, oh, I don't need to look there because, you know, this experience of being conscious is me, Shiva. I don't need to look there. Yeah.
There's a distance that happens.
Yeah.
That there's a aliveness here, and when there's engaging in daily tasks and talking to people, it seems like mind collapses, and it doesn't, but that's the experience of it, that it seems to, that this vision or this knowing or something, I don't know, kind of confusing. I didn't quite have the language for it.
Yeah, I understand. And it kind of is a bit confusing because the reality is, even when you are with friends, yeah, it's where it gets confusing, right? That mind there is creating your friends. Right? Now, your friends' minds are creating you. Yeah? And then there seems to be a relationship that happens, and all that is happening is thoughts are relating to thoughts.
Mm.
Now, it sounds like, I'm not saying that thoughts here are relating to thoughts over there with another person. All the thoughts are happening here.
Mm.
And then this mind creates an idea of the other person, and then the mind takes the idea of the other person to be the other person. And everyone's doing that. That's what's going on. Where's the relationship?
In the mind.
Only. And why would it be in the mind only? Because the mind is dualistic. It could only be the mind that could create an idea of a relationship. Two, me, you. Relationship.
Mm.
Yeah. But what we fail to see, yeah, is that this mind here is creating them. So the seeming relationship that we believe is happening is only happening in the mind here. Like if I asked you, Shiva, yeah, and you might have heard me say this, but it's pertinent. Like, are you who I think you are?
No.
Then stop doing that with everybody around you, because they too are not who you think they are.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Catch that. Like we know when that question gets asked to ourselves, yeah, are you who I think you are? There's an intuitive knowing that happens inside that automatically says, well, no. So there's a truth there.
Mm.
No. Yeah. And then we go back out in the world and we start taking all the things around us and all the people around us to be who we think they are.
Mm.
Yeah. It's all mind. It's all mind. If the mind can completely collapsed and stopped, non-dual. That's not an invitation, by the way, to try and stop the mind. You can't. You can't stop it. Yeah? But it's recognizing what the dual is.
Mm.
Yeah? Mind. And then all of a sudden there's a recognition of something here that is aware of that duality playing out. Mind. Then there's a shift. Then this becomes the interest, or consciousness becomes the interest. If you start to invert and go into the consciousness, you discover, yeah, there's no beginning, no end, no place,
Mm.
no measurement, not here, not there. It's just still.
Mm.
And instead of just sitting there, resting there and abiding there, what we do, which is what we've habitually been doing our whole life, is we go back into the mind for the answers. And the answer's not in there. Simply not in there. Just observe everything just happening. Everything. Body, mind. Observe those things just happening. Just happening. Body, mind. Just happening. My teacher would start his talks with, I'm not speaking to anybody, And I'm not speaking to any mind. I'm speaking to that I am that I am.
Mm.
Or I'm speaking to that consciousness that I am. But it's one source of consciousness. It's not two. It'd only be the mind that would step in once again and say, well, my consciousness is personal to me and your consciousness is personal to you, says the dualistic instrument. Yeah. Just the consciousness. Dive into that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just dive into that, my friend. Yeah.
Mm.
But you have to come to a point yourself where it finally dawns on you the answer's not in the mind.